Coming up on this episode of Courage Over Comfort by Matt Logan Speaks.
What would be words of advice for people not necessarily suffering through the loss of a child, but just suffering right now?
I think I think those that are suffering through the loss of a child is just know that there's people out there to help. Don't feel humbled and saying, well, I don't need help. Everybody needs something. I didn't think I needed to either.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Courage Over Comfort. The guy that I have here right now, we share kind of something that in common, unfortunately. I don't even know how to say it because we both have lost a daughter. And he's got way better hair than I do, but let's introduce Ron Hanson. Thanks for being here, Ron.
You're being too kind. Yours is dark. Mine is, I tried to make it whiter so I'd blend in with the older folks. And all I need now is a little spray right here because, sometimes I'll see a picture of myself from behind and it's like, oh darn, there's a little bit of a spot that keeps growing that's not hair. and the receding hairline goes up. But
so do you use that spray that for the ceilings, that popcorn spray? Is that what it is?
Yeah, no, it's epoxy. That
it's
black
epoxy.
It's that rubber stuff for boats.
Yeah,
I use that.
Perfect. That's brilliant. I'll have to pass the word along.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, good. Thanks for being here. This is tough stuff. You have a lot of courage for what you do. You're like I'll let you describe what you do for the Shriners with the stunt work, that you do.
Oh, sure.
So tell us about that first.
All right. First of all, as my wife says, I'm too involved in the community, but belonged to the Rochester Area Shrine Club, the Shriners, and we have a new group. I shouldn't say new. It's probably coming up on 3 years. I've always been impressed with the Shriners. Had a lot of friends that, did the little motorcycles, or they did go-karts, or the convertibles, and always hearing the stories of the guys going out and doing good and helping the hospital. And a friend of mine said, hey, you should become a Shriner. And to be a Shriner, you have to be a Mason first.
Okay.
So
I didn't know there was a connection.
Yep. The Masonic Lodge is 3 degrees. And then once you're a Mason, that's kind of more the, I call the deeper dive and, just helping others. The whole philosophy behind the Masonry is just making yourself a better man.
Sure.
That's really what it is, helping another brother, being sincere. And then the shrine part I call is the fun side. And the whole goal is to help the Shriners Hospitals. And they've changed the name from hospitals to Shriners Healthcare for Children.
Okay.
Yep. And there's, I believe, I'm not even going to quote because I remember, they're across the entire country. Even overseas, but the closest is Minneapolis, and that's orthopedics. So we help kids that from small to large that need orthopedics, that are having issues, that can't afford it, and it's really a great cause. And the group I joined, I always call it an omen, and it's called the Daddy-O's.
Okay.
And the reason I say Daddy-O's is my daughter, who passed away, used to always call me Daddy-O. And I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. It was a sign.
Right.
And instead of motorcycles, people go, oh, are you the motorcycle crew? And I said, oh, no, we're much cooler. Basically, it is a drift trike.
Yeah.
And a drift trike is basically a big wheel with an engine.
Right.
So, and then on the back of it, it's go-kart wheels on the back, and it's a fat tire from a bicycle for the front.
Okay.
And we custom made them ourselves.
Really?
Yep. We had some friends that knew how to do welding. We had it painted and everything, power-coated. And what's kind of cool about it is we put a thicker, there's a name for it, but it's like a thick PVC water main pipe that fits around the wheel itself. And that is, and then we blow up the tire and it sticks.
Sure.
And that's what makes them slide. So instead of people have said, oh, it's like riding on ice, it is ice. So when you turn, you slide completely and you have to have control. It's a little bit to get used to. So we're learning how to do some maneuvers and some tricks, and they'll go up to 40 miles an hour.
Oh, wow.
So you're close to the ground. And,
that's cruising.
It's fun.
I'm that guy that launches water balloons at you.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Did you didn't even know that, did you?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. I launched a couple last summer.
Oh, okay.
At you. Yeah.
That was you. Okay.
Yeah, it was me.
Here, let me mark that.
Yeah,
down.
exactly. Write that down. No, thanks for doing that kind of stuff. You lost your daughter to cancer.
Yep, lost my daughter to cancer. And then I want to kind of
Yeah.
go back just one step, though, in the shrine. I thought this is kind of cool, but what really hit home is we were doing a parade over in, I believe, St. Charles. And afterwards, this family tracked us down. We went to the school a little ways away, and they said, "Hey, we just want to say thank you so much for what you do." And I said, "Oh, no problem." And this daughter came up, and she looked fairly normal. I mean, just a nice young little teenager. And she goes, "Yes, I'm actually a patient." And she had a
wow.
prosthetic leg on and showed pictures, when she was younger of, how this leg, and she had cancer in the leg. And it was really cool saying, "Hey, because of you, I lived."
Wow.
And it's like, oh, wow. That's why we ride those tricycles.
Dude, I'd
And,
be bawling like a baby at that point.
It's right at that point. It's like, oh, man, that
Yeah.
is so
Wow.
cool to meet, That was the
Yeah.
first time I actually met somebody that we actually helped.
Yeah.
Because of our philanthropy and what we do.
Right.
So,
I run into a lot of people, and I'm able to share my story in large groups, and people will come and ask questions afterwards. It's really amazing to me, actually, how many people have insurmountable circumstances in their life, and they don't share it, and they don't help others with it.
right.
And that's the idea of this conversation, is to say, hey, we get it. We all suffer. We all have challenges, but this is what we can do. This is what I've done. And to have that courage is really remarkable, I've found. I thought it was normal.
Right.
Right. And so it's really great to see that there's so many people that do that and are vocal about it. And that really lifts people up in such powerful ways. Thank you for what you do.
Yep. And thank you as well.
Yeah,
So
thanks.
I can definitely relate.
Yeah. So take us down that path. Like, this was a number of years ago.
Yep. It's actually coming up on, it's 11 years.
Yeah.
So we're a little bit farther down the journey.
Yeah.
As you know, sometimes it feels like it's yesterday, and other days it's like, wow, that was a ways ago. But, you never forget. Our daughter Ashley was 23. So we always say, always 23 or forever 23. And ended up having, she started getting kind of a little chunky. She was going to school at Augsburg College up in the cities. Her and her, boyfriend, just a great guy. I always say future, son-in-law. But she was checking her blood pressure at Cub Foods. And so it was quite high, and we said, those things are never right. My wife being a nurse said, sometimes they're not accurate. So she checked it again, and it still was high. And when she came down to visit us, we noticed she was gaining weight. And we thought, okay, typical teenager, eating a lot, and
that freshman 15, right?
Yep, just eating quite a bit in school. But we thought it might have been a thyroid issue, because it was very symptomatic of that. So I'm not sure what it was. She couldn't get a fever down, and so we thought, well, maybe we should go in and take a look at it. And they did tests. They really couldn't see anything. The tests were negative. This was negative, and for whatever reason, they said, well, let's just do a scan for the heck of it. And they did a scan, and they found a tumor about the size of a grapefruit that was attached to her adrenal gland. By then, it was already spread to her liver as well, and it's called adrenal cortical cancer. Roughly 1 to 2 per million get it. That's how rare it is.
Oh, wow.
And there is no cure for it.
Sure.
Right away, she had surgery to remove the adrenal gland, to remove the tumor, and half her liver. And we thought we pretty much had it all, and things looked good. Next thing you know, the test came back, and it started spreading to the lungs. And then, of course, from the lungs, it spread to the bones. And then from the bones, we had to do some surgery in our vertebrae as well. And it was, from start to finish, a 9-month ordeal. So diagnosed in July, it was July 2nd, and then by February 25th, she passed away.
Wow.
And it was amazing how the doctor said, well, we're looking at 9 months. It was 9 months. So it was but through the time, she probably gave us a lot of strength. She, amazed us. She never, ever said, why me? She said, nope, I've lived a good life, no problem. There's people that have it worse than me. She was always positive. We did some journaling, and she had a page out there. Now my mind just went blank. Caring page.
Sure.
And it's still out there. And just the stuff that she wrote was amazing. And I was like, are you my daughter? I must take after my wife.
Right.
But just a lot of courage, with that, just spoke her mind, saying, how's she feeling, helped other people. She had a faith. She knew where she was going.
Yeah.
She even helped other people, find their faith just because of her faith, which I thought that was pretty cool.
That's really cool.
And, the comments that, were on our Caring Bridge site are just, they're just phenomenal. Just what she said and what they said back. And, that gave us a lot of inspiration as well.
And it's probably fuel in the tank still today, isn't it?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I'll go back and read some of those, quite often and, pick up some little things. One of her big sayings, and she read it in a book once, was the word cancer, and make sure you never spell it right. And she always spelled it like Canzer or Cansr. And the whole philosophy behind that is, A, you do not capitalize it because it's not important. And number 2, you don't spell it right because you don't want it to take control of you. You want to say that I have control over cancer and you're not going to get to me.
Sure. Wow, I didn't know that.
And I thought that was pretty, pathetic for, a 23-year-old.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it says, no, it's just saying I don't want it to have a hold over me. I'm not going to capitalize it. I'm not going to make it important. I'm going to spell it wrong all the time. And that's my way of saying, I'm not admitting to it.
Right.
And, her only question throughout the whole ordeal is at the very end, and she even asked her pastor, was, will it hurt when I die? That's her only question.
Okay.
And, pastor said, nope, it'll be, very comforting. And, so
yeah,
it was neat. And we were very fortunate that we were able to, have her at home. So she passed away, in our sunroom. And, we always think of that as kind of a spot from, earth meeting heaven, right there in that area. And, we were very fortunate that she did, slowly pass away comfortably, because she had, some surgery on her neck to help a vertebrae, and we were afraid that, she could choke or, and it was kind of leaking a little bit, and there were some other issues, but we were always worried about that. And it was, it was 9 o'clock in the morning and very peaceful. And what was really bizarre is I have another daughter, Angela, who's 3.5 years younger, that was up in the Twin Cities. She was going to school at St. Cloud State. And, we wanted her to come back because we knew the time would probably be close. And Ashley was still hanging on and just, which is unfortunate when you get to that stage. We had hospice, phenomenal help from hospice, that, they took great care of her. She was, at peace. And our daughter, I remember, came home probably about midnight that night and said, oh, hi, Ashley, and was talking to her. And she actually opened her eyes and said, I'm going. And we go, well, where are you going? I'm going. Well, tell me more. Where are you going? And she goes, I'm going. And then she fell back to sleep. And then that next morning at 9 is when she passed away.
Wow.
So it's just like you wonder the human spirit and the body, what it goes through, or what are they thinking. And, otherwise she was pretty much comatose, a few days up to that.
Yeah.
So it was just like bizarre.
Powerful.
Yep. Very powerful.
A lot of the groups that I speak to, I say that, our circumstances do not make us who we are, but our circumstances reveal who we are.
Yes.
And, it sounds like she was right there.
Oh, yes.
She was in the middle of those circumstances, and it really revealed who she was as a person. And how amazing is that as a father?
Yep, and I always tell the story too. It's kind of a bittersweet now after the fact that, she had her life planned out. She was going to become a school teacher, and she was in her final year of becoming, a teacher. And what was neat though is the college gave us actually her degree, after the fact, posthumously. And I thought that was pretty cool. So
that is really cool.
We got to walk in her honor.
Oh, wow.
And her, boyfriend / fiance, they were going to get married and have 3 or 4 kids. And he was going to be a doctor of prosthetics, and they're going to have a big dog, and everything was planned out.
Yeah.
And I remember my wife saying, well, when you get your puppy, we'll watch it, but no way is that dog ever going to be in our house. No,
yeah.
No way in hell. No.
Sure.
But unfortunately, 2 weeks before she passed away, we were able to get her dream dog. Because 2 weeks prior, she was very coherent and looking up on the internet saying, oh, I found this dog. It's in Texas. And, oh, here's one up in Michigan. Well, a gal I worked with at the time, Jackie, looked online and said, hey, there's one over in Kenyon for you.
Wow.
And that's where my wife grew up. And I went, really?
Wow.
So they actually delivered the dog to us. It was a male, all black. That's what she wanted. And we had people that said, yeah, we can take the dog if it doesn't work out for you, or it could be a rescue dog or a police dog, you know. So we had plans for it, but no, it was a part of her. So, long story short, after a couple of years, we ended up with a 155-pound Newfoundland. First dog ever. It's like, oh my God, what the heck are we doing?
Yeah.
But we couldn't get rid of him because it was a part of her. He got us up in the morning. We had to take care of him if we were kind of like moping around.
Yeah.
He gave us a purpose, and we knew. And they live 8 to 10 years, and just 2 months ago, we had to put him down because he had arthritis in the spine. He was going downhill. But at 11 years, that's a long time for that large of a dog.
Yeah, that's remarkable.
And he was a remarkable dog. And it was partly nice that, if we took him out for a walk, people said, oh my God, it's a bear. Or, he's 37 inches tall, and he was a big dog, but just so lovable. I remember our daughter always saying, oh, don't worry, Dad, they don't drool or shed that much. He could sling drool 20 feet.
Right.
We even, once in a while, like, oh, there's some drool up there on the ceiling. Shed like crazy, but we still loved him.
Yeah.
He's just a gentle giant.
Yeah.
And it was a good conversation point, too, because, when you lose somebody, people are always, saying, I don't want to bring it up and make you feel bad, or I don't want to talk about, your daughter, or I don't want to talk about Ashley. And, it's the same with yourself. But any chance we can still talk about our kids, we do. Because those that have lost kids, it's like, oh, are you over it yet? No, number one, you never get over it. But you always want to talk about your kid. You want to remember them. It was a way for us saying, oh, what a big dog. It's like, if you had him a long time, and it's like, oh, it's a good way. It was our daughter's we inherited. Oh, your daughter must be lucky that you don't have it anymore, or she doesn't have it. And it's an excuse to bring up Ashley's name.
Right. Yeah, you had mentioned how he got you up in the morning and things like that, and just 2 weeks before she passed. I mean, that's to me, that looks like divine intervention right there, right?
Yes.
Finding this close and all that kind of stuff 2 weeks before gave you the purpose, as you said. And it's so important that we have those things, isn't it? In those times of struggle, and it doesn't matter the struggle, but just finding that purpose.
Yep, it really helped to fill a void.
Yeah,
and for the grieving process, as everybody grieves differently too, and it was a way for us to kind of have some commonality, have a little bit of a purpose. But myself, I'm so active, I needed to get out, go back to work, be social, be in front of people. That was how I dealt with it. Where my wife just wanted to kind of crawl a little hole and read a book and not do anything.
Yeah.
Completely different. But there's no right or wrong way, because everybody grieves differently, and you can't say that one way is right and the other way is wrong.
No, but I think the one thing that I would say is that as long as you do it, you have to grieve, right? You have to go through the process. You have to find your path through that process, but you have to at least move through the process.
Definitely.
That's so dangerous. I see it all the time. I mean, people in circumstances who have, 15, even up to 20 years later, and they just haven't worked through the process. It's so unhealthy.
Yep.
This stuff happens, but we have to deal with it. We have to have that courage and not sit and be comfortable, right?
Yep. And there's always a purpose. What it is, I still really don't know.
Yeah.
Sometimes I always have doubt, and then sometimes I have faith, and I have to have hope. I have to have courage. There's days that out of the blue I'll break down, but other days it's like, hey, just let's move on. And even though we're farther down the journey, there's something that'll come back that'll just remind me. And what was really tough right away is I was at the time still doing some DJing for weddings, from my radio days. But anyway, and I remember the first couple, especially the first dance I did, it was after she passed away. And It was a wedding, and it was actually for a friend of mine. So that's what I thought. And I said, yeah, this will be get back on the saddle.
Yeah.
And when it came time, number one, seeing, the bride, and the groom, thinking, God, that could have been my daughter.
Right.
And then what really tugged at my heartstring is when I did the father-daughter dance.
Oof.
Oh God, it was just, I had a hard time keeping it back, but it was very tough. And even to this day, if I see a father-daughter dance, even other ones that I've used to do, it was tough to do and to see. And then now a lot of her friends, are having families and kids, and it's like, it's tough. And
I enjoy that, seeing my daughter's friends getting married and having kids and things, and that I can thank God for social media, right?
Oh, yes.
I mean, there's a lot of evils to it, but there's a lot of good to it too. It depends upon how you use it. But that's so important to see. You can think about the things that might have happened and what that would look like, and imagine that and all that. So for me, that's been a huge part of my process and even healing on a regular basis is, I'm going to see what so-and-so is doing right now, and they got, I heard so-and-so's getting married or whatever. And it's great to have that ability to do that on social media. So I'm right there with you. It's just it's a blessing. And it's like, there are times too that it hits me pretty hard.
Yep.
But it's such a blessing to see those things and the purpose behind what all of it is, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. And I thought of you the other night. I was flipping through some Lifetime channel was on. I thought, I'll record it. And it was a little cheesy, per se. But
not on Lifetime.
Yeah, I don't know. But it was Christian based. But what was really neat about it is the whole premise was the life of like 3-4 different people and really how they intertwined.
Sure.
And there was the pastor of this large church, and he was going through a whole bunch of things, and his son was killed because of somebody else was texting and hit him, and he was he was very young. I think they said at 5 or 6 years old.
Sure.
But anyway, and killed him. Well, then there's this construction guy that's out of work, and he really can't, and they're trying to build onto the church. And then, of course, the construction guy that ended up getting the job, he was really struggling and not paying attention to the kids, and his daughter was being really in depression. She just recently had a heart transplant, so you can kind of see where this is going already.
Yeah.
And then there was a third point on it as well. But anyway, it ended up that the construction guy that he hired, and he didn't know it, had the heart of his son.
Sure.
And was able to sing then in the church, and then they were able to, and there was a couple other, characters in it that intertwined with it, and it's like, I mean, I could see it from the beginning, but still, it was
right. It's
neat.
A little predictable.
Very predictable. It's still at the end, it was kind of like, it was sweet.
Yeah,
it was sweet.
It's so weird how some of these things do interconnect like that. In fact, I got a message from somebody that saw or listened to, a podcast in Ireland. And they were in the States a while back and met this person that was on the podcast and reached out and sent, from social media, sent a message and saying how that podcast impacted their life. And they had no idea that this person had gone through that, but yet knowing them and meeting them, understood and trusted that. Like our conversation is, and trusted that person. And so they said that how much it's helping them get through a struggle that they're in right now.
Yep.
And so it's so wild how you can make a movie out of it all day long, but I could tell you stories all day long about how many connections there really are in these things. It's remarkable.
Yep.
And that's why it's so important to have that courage to be a stunt man on the trikes and do those things and help so many people and just bring people up. It's so important.
I could see some movie scripts here coming your way. You
Right.
could start writing. And
I could, man. I've been in front of a lot of people, and so a lot of people will come up afterwards, meet and greets or whatever, and it is remarkable the kind of things and stories that you hear.
Yep.
I mean, I get messages from students from 7 years ago still that I was at their school and how much it impacted their life. And I took a picture with a small group, and one of them actually had cancer and passed away. And the students, and they, one of the students reached out and said how just me sharing my story, my life with them, helped them deal with their friend's cancer. Completely unrelated, but when you can put yourself out there and say, hey, this sucks, right? Be honest about it. This is terrible. This is unbelievably unbearable at times, but you just have to move forward a little bit at a time and go through that process, whatever your process is, but move through that process. It's powerful.
And now for a quick break for you to think of someone you can encourage today. And now, back to the episode.
Oh, yes, and like, the movie, the two big premises at the end, too, they were talking, and the mother of, the child that passed away, wanted to do a campaign on don't text and drive and talking to schools. I know you've done some remarkable things there, that's really a blessing. And then on the other end, too, how to donate, your organs. And that hits home for me a little bit. We weren't able to, but because of her cancer. But my wife's a nurse, an organ transplant nurse.
Oh, I didn't know that.
She's
a
heart-lung transplant coordinator.
Okay.
And she said, I don't, and her husband was against it, saying, no, don't do this. It's a waste of time. And she goes, if I can just help one person. Yeah. And of course, at the school, everybody raised their hands to sign the pledge, and it was just, it was kind of neat. And like yourself, when you're out there, if you can help just one person, it's worth it. If you can save one.
You don't know that ripple effect.
Right.
I mean, you truly don't. And I still don't. I mean, those are minimal stories. I've been in front of hundreds of thousands of people, and to hear those small ripples, that's fuel in the tank.
Oh yeah, and there's a video out there, and it's been a while, and I think it was from overseas, and it's called The Ripple. Okay. And it's really neat how it goes through this whole series of somebody down on their luck, and they buy something for somebody, and then the next person does this, and the next person fills a pail up with water, but it goes all the way through, and at the very end it comes back to when that kid was little. He's now grown up, and somebody helping him. Yeah, wow. Because of that one incident, it all came full circle, and it was kind of neat.
Yeah, that is cool. It was neat. I had a conversation with someone, and you maybe have similar ones, but so what if Deej didn't survive birth or whatever else? Mm-hmm. What if that didn't happen? Then she wouldn't have died the way that she did. Or what if this didn't happen? All these things in combinations, and that literally, she has saved lives. I can say that.
Oh, definitely.
Wholehandedly.
Definitely.
She has saved lives. I've had face-to-face with people that, your daughter saved my life. And that ripple effect, what is that person going to go on to do that who Deej saved? I mean, they might come up with something for our current situation. You never know. It's so life is so valuable. Yep. It is so important. But understanding that, those circumstances don't make us who we are, but they do reveal who we are. Yep. And that, you can never take any of those things lightly and for granted. Right. Which you obviously don't anymore. But how do you communicate that with people? You see that, don't you?
Definitely.
Back up and not talk about the people that have been saved, but about the people that are hard to reach. Close-minded and
they're still that way, and that's probably the reason why I just get so involved in the community, because somehow Ashley's telling me give back to the community, do something. We both have gone through the worst. Somebody could say, hey, you're fired, you're awful, I'm not going to buy your product. It's like,
who cares?
I don't care. I've had a lot worse. I've lost a child. So what you're saying is like, that's nothing. Yeah. So it's made us stronger, I think.
For sure. And I think that because it makes us stronger, we can have the empathy that's needed to help people who have lost their job. That's the worst thing they've ever had. And it is, it's not a fun thing to go through to lose your job, or it's not a fun thing to go whatever. I mean, you can come up with all kinds of circumstances. It's never a fun thing to do, but the perspective, I think, that is able, that people like us are able to kind of put in focus, that's huge. Yep. I mean, you can come alongside someone, put your arm around them and say, tell me more.
Yep.
You know, I want to hear about your story. And then you can say, well, here's what I did in dealing with this. And the light bulb goes off, right? Yes. And I love that. But that thick skull, how do you get to that?
And a lot of it, sometimes you can't. You can't. You just have to be a listening ear for them. You have to be there. You have to try and convey to them saying, hey, you know, I know this is hard. You know, have you ever tried to do this? And there's still a couple people I know today that, you know, will not admit it. You know, I didn't lose a child, or I'm fine. And they just keep it in. And someday it's going to be worse.
It's a ticking time bomb for sure.
And from it, you know, I'm on the steering committee. There's a group that I belong to locally called Compassionate Friends. And it's a support group, and it's, you know, across the entire country, and it's, you know, for those that have lost a child.
Yeah.
And we've kind of expanded to, you know, to even if you lost a grandchild or even a sibling. But if you've lost a child, it's a way that we don't judge. You know, we have meetings once a month. Once in a while, we'll just have get-togethers, just go out to have dinner, and not even, you know, just to have that camaraderie. But everybody in that room has the exact same, you know, we've all gone through, you know, losing a child, whether it's from stillbirth, whether it was from accident, whether it was cancer, whether it was, you know, suicide, whether it was overdose. I mean, from all walks of life. But we are all the exact same. We don't judge. You could cry, you could laugh, but a lot of it is just, we just are there to listen to your story. And if you don't want to say anything, just listen to other stories. That's fine. And some of the newer ones, and I always look at it, you know, I'm farther down the journey, and I want to help those that are fresh. And somebody that, say, just a month ago lost their child to an accident, you know, they look at us sometimes and say, geez, is this what it's going to be like 11 years from now? Am I still going to be grieving? And it's to let them know that you will grieve, but it's a new norm. You can cope. It's just to show you that you can get through this. There is, you know, a light at the tunnel, but also we're there to tell you that we're never going to forget your child either. Some people, you know, say, oh, geez, you know, it's been 5 years and I still haven't cleaned my daughter's room. It's the exact same. And it's like, no big deal.
You're right.
You can, you know, there's no right answer, no wrong. And then, you know, we have fun with it too, because people will say, as you know, saying, oh, aren't you over it yet? You know, it's like, no. You know,
I think you hit it right on the nail on the head. I think there's so much fear in people that they think that they have to move on from their child. So here's how I explain it to people. You move on from a job loss. You move on from a house fire. You move on from whatever else that's not a person. But with a person, like with my daughter, you move forward. The earth still turns in the same direction, even though we would like it to reverse. It still moves in that same direction. So what you have to do is you bring them with, right? You brought Ashley with today.
Yep.
You brought the memory. You brought the dog. You brought, you know, all those things. You move forward with them in your life, in your memories, in your conversations and things like that. I think there's so much fear wrapped around where people have to move on. Well, they don't have to move on. Nope. That's the wrong way to think or get over it or whatever. It is just simply that you have to bring them with you everywhere you go. You know, I don't bring my other 3 kids everywhere I go, other than the same way I bring Deej with me everywhere I go. I bring her with emotionally, I bring her with mentally, I bring her with in the memories, as well as the other 3 kids. And so that's so important. Just take the steps forward and bring them with.
And I think that's important when you mention that's a good point, is that, you know, make sure that, you know, some people do get focused, and I'm guilty as well, that, I focused so much on Ashley and forget about Angela, our other daughter.
Yeah.
And you always want to include, you know, your other siblings, your other kids, because they're just as important, and include them in on the conversation, and, you know, tell them how much you love them. And it's just, you know, you always have to include them, but, you know, they lost, like Angie lost her best friend, her big sister that told her what to do. And, you know, so there's that connection too for struggling. And kids go through it a whole different way.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. My youngest was 12 at the time. And just about 13 and stuff. So yeah, it's a different process.
Yep. And then, and even today too, people cope in other ways. I'm a believer in signs. There's always little signs that, hey, Ashley, ours is usually hawks. So if we're driving, we no matter where we go, we always see a hawk. Of course, they're all over the place, or we're driving down the road and an Ashley semi drives by, from the furniture store.
Furniture, yeah.
Sorry, no plug. No, but anyway.
Yeah, right, yeah, exactly.
And it's like, oh, hey, she's with us. Or what's really bizarre too is we'll, out of the blue, just be eating at a restaurant, and the gal comes up and says, hey, I'm your waitress today. My name's Ashley. It's like, what are the odds of Ashley? There's probably 20 waitresses in this, but that Ashley waited on us.
Yeah.
There's always just little things
For
that,
sure.
We try to...
Good reminders.
Yep.
Yeah,
whether
absolutely.
they're right or wrong, but it helps us.
Yeah, no, right. No, I agree. I think there's those things that help bring forward.
Right.
I mean, that's the way to do it. Just brings up the fresh memories and things like that. I think that's so powerful.
Yep.
Most definitely.
But if there's a chance now that, we can help somebody else that's just starting to struggle, great. And, we've got, a couple that are even in our group that, one spouse will come, but the other won't, and they refuse. And they'll eventually, find time. And you'll notice too, some of your friends change, because some of them are just saying, oh, I just can't deal with that. And then you meet new friends as well that do understand. And we've made some really good, close friendships, with others that have lost children. And, we act normal like everybody else. So
yeah, well, I don't know. I'm not sure if anybody's ever accused me of being normal, but certainly not acting normal.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
You know that, but so let me ask you this. I have found for myself that let me word it like this. It did a lot of weird things with my memory. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things now as time moves on. Now, mine was a little bit quicker than yours. I mean, it was hours, and so I was on the phone with her probably about 30 minutes before she crashed.
Wow.
And we chatted for, 2-3 minutes, and and I came up on the accident. I'm sure you know that. But so within the time I spoke with her and the time of her crash was less than an hour that I came up on it. And then she died 5 hours later, technically, but never regained consciousness or anything. So obviously that was a different kind of trauma, but it really did a lot of weird things with my memory. Like there's things I don't remember that I should. My memory's not bad. It's just moments in the past. Have you found that?
Yep, and it's kind of different. I've heard it both ways. I've heard it saying that, sheesh, I can't imagine, losing my child that quick and I couldn't say goodbye. Or other people have told me saying, sheesh, I'm glad she went quickly because I couldn't endure like even 9 months of seeing that suffering.
Yeah.
It's just, it's gut-wrenching. It's hard, it's pulling, and, I can see it both ways. But what I've heard, and I've seen other people do it where sometimes I'm upset with myself because I don't have as many dreams about Ashley. Is that because, I did get to say goodbye somewhat?
Sure.
And, I never did say, at the very end, just, saying, we never talked about death. That's just not me. I didn't want to do it. My wife did, but I just didn't want to. I was in denial all the way up to the end.
Yeah.
Where others that have had a sudden death said, she comes to me in my dreams a lot, and I'm able to, it's her way of saying goodbye. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if other people, are going through that or have done it, and I get, upset. Like, I wish I could dream more about, Ashley. But then others that have had more of a sudden death, it says, oh, she's coming into my dreams quite a bit, and she said this, or I see this. And it's like, well, why not me? And maybe I'm blocking it out, or things that, I don't want to bring up. So it's strange for me on that aspect. And I don't know if you've, had dreams or...
So I have some pretty weird dreams. Like, I still have dreams that I didn't graduate high school. Okay. So I'm like, I got more work to do. But so the dreams I would say that I have are more based in memory. and things like that, which actually helps my memory.
Yep.
To be honest. And, there's weird things like, it was probably a couple of years ago that maybe 3-4 years ago now that I had this dream, and it reminded me of a couple of days before she died. She was just pissed off at me because one thing I've tried to do, and somewhat successfully on occasion, and most of the time I piss my kids off, but is to teach them things, right? And because whether they don't see it at the moment, but I try to teach them things that I know as an adult is going to help them down the road. And so we were working on some yard work, and I made her get on the little lawnmower and back the trailer up. And she was frustrated and mad, and I'm like, you got it. And so I'm, it's loud, so I'm yelling at her. Yep. She's like, stop yelling at me. And I'm like, I'm not yelling at you. I'm yelling to be loud, Yes, I did yell at my kids plenty, but,
Oh, yes.
And so, so it's those things that, so that memory came to me in a dream and things like that. So I would say that's how I dream, is more based off of memory. But I didn't remember that before until I dreamed about it. This was probably 3-4 years ago now, like I said. But so that's how I dream.
Okay.
Based on memory.
Yep. It's
different.
It's different, definitely.
That's the one piece and one part of my life that is like, that's just, it's different. It does really something different with my mind.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah.
So, but, like I said, I'm learning a little better now to say no, but I still have to get out there and help others, so.
That's hard, isn't it, to say no, and especially when you know that it could really help somebody.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Between, all the different things this last year I decided to get back into more of the chamber and be an ambassador for the Chamber of Commerce. And, my wife, are you doing what now? It's like, I know.
Yeah.
So,
was there a famous person that Ashley wanted to meet?
Actually, no.
She never talked about it?
Oh, actually, I take that back. Yes. Her, when she was growing up, and this is from her younger days, she had a favorite music group. Yeah. And, of course, I don't know if it's because it's our same last name, but she loved Hanson. And the Mbop days. And she had posters
I love it.
all over. And we still have, we kept her posters and all her pictures. And she had all the CDs of Hanson. And I think I'm still even on their mailing list. So, once a year I get a happy birthday, Ron, from the Hansons. And I went, oh, they sent, so I bet you, this is just for you. I bet you think we say that to everybody. It's like, well, right. Underneath it says, yes, we do. But, so that was probably her biggest. And it was 3 years after she passed away, they were actually doing a concert at First Avenue.
Oh, is that right? Sure.
So we ended up getting tickets and went up. We didn't get a chance to meet him, unfortunately, but we went up, great seats. I mean, we didn't do the floor where all the younger kids. Matter of fact, I even had a cousin that was on the floor dancing, and I call it the mosh pit. But we were kind of on the side, and probably real close, just looking right down at them and watching.
Yeah, because First Avenue, that's the one where they have like the three-sided balcony.
Three-sided balcony.
Yeah, okay. Up in the cities there.
And it was kind of open seating, so we just went up to the balcony and got a close seat just right on the side, very close. And it's my wife and myself and our daughter, and it was really neat. And at the beginning, they always do limited edition posters. They do 25 posters that they actually draw for each one, and they must draw one and then make 25 copies. But so I thought, let's pick that up. We'll spend the money. And afterwards, wanted to get the autograph, and finally one gentleman came over, and of course I said, well, we're here because my daughter passed away, and a favorite group, and it means really a lot to us if we could have this autographed. Well, he went onto the bus, got an autograph, and brought it back. And I thought, we could have met him. No. So, and then I kind of thought, was it really their autograph? And I looked it up online, and it matches other ones I've seen. Okay. So I thought, okay, that's good.
So it's the bus driver every time.
It's probably the bus driver every time doing it. But I thought that was just kind of a fun little thing. And part of it was
great.
That during her funeral, we actually did a slideshow presentation, with pictures. And normally our church doesn't do it, but I'm on the communications team, so I had a little pull, and it's like, we're going to do a slideshow, So, and the song we used was a song called "In Your Dreams" by Hanson.
Sure.
Let's talk about, when I get there, will I see you in my dreams? And it it really fit, but it was one of her favorite songs. And beforehand, it had a different meaning, but now afterwards, and we thought, oh, maybe they'll sing that song, and did the whole concert, and they didn't sing it, and they left.
Oh, bummer.
And then they came back on for an encore.
Yeah.
And did that song.
Is that right?
And that was their song they did for their encore. And I thought, oh, maybe I thought they would have picked like something more popular or whatever, their bop song.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of cool.
That is cool. That's very cool.
That was kind of cool.
Yeah, another sign.
Yep, another sign.
Yeah.
And now, a quick break from the podcast. Make a pizza, chill on the couch, get a massage. We'll be back in about 10 seconds. And now, back to the episode.
Another sign. So
that's
pretty
awesome.
much, otherwise she really wasn't into, that many celebrities,
Yeah.
Probably because Dad was, from the radio business and promotions business and everything I've been in,
It's just another day in the life.
I ate it up all the time. It's like, oh, sure, I'll get to meet so-and-so. And, I was in charge of taking people backstage, for concerts to meet the winners, so I was like, I'll do that, So,
Right.
and even today there's a country artist that, we're still friends with that's
Nice.
very grounded, very Christian, and,
Can I ask who that is?
yeah, it's I'll do it as in a twofold.
Okay.
It's, my wife was pregnant the same time as Linda Davis was with her daughter.
Okay.
And so when they came into town, her husband was the very first You Can Be a Nashville Star winner, Lang Scott. And he never really got to be, that famous, but that weekend we escorted him around. We did a concert down at the fairgrounds. We had other opening acts. I took him to a March of Dimes banquet where he sang. So we actually bonded and said, hey, she said, if you ever get to Nashville, let's keep in touch. And
Wow.
because we wined and dined him,
Sure.
And so we sent Christmas cards back and forth and everything. And, she had a daughter, same time we had a daughter. And it was just kind of neat. Well, then she became more famous than he did. He's a phenomenal musician, writer, musician, still sings great. Then she ended up singing with Reba McEntire. And Linda's had a few albums out on herself, but toured with Reba, did a #1 song called Does He Love You with Reba McEntire. And then anytime they did come into the area, it was like, hey, we're going to be in Austin or we're in Rochester with Reba. Do you want to get together?
Sure.
And the kids would play on the bus with
fun.
with their daughter. And so I thought, that's kind of cool. And, oh, you want to meet Reba? Sure. You want to meet Vince? Sure. You want to meet the Statler brothers? Sure. And then the last few years, she actually toured for the last 5 years with Kenny Rogers.
Oh, wow.
So, just a very bunch of gentlemen, and their whole family's Christian. And while we're going through the ordeal with Ashley, they sent words of encouragement or a CD, their gospel songs they did for Christmas. And I mean, a lot of stars, you think, they're just kind of pompous, but they're very grounded. They believe in Christ. And it was really neat until one day my cousin said, geez, Hillary is doing much better than Mom. And I go, Hillary? She's not. What do you mean? Yeah, she's got her own group and her album out. And I go, I've never heard of her. Well, I've never heard of Hillary Scott. And I go, no, her group is Lady Antebellum.
No way.
So it's the lead singer of Lady Antebellum. I thought, they used to play together on the bus.
Right,
a couple of times. And
that's cool.
Yeah. So when they're up in the
That's
cities,
a great
I guess,
story.
They don't, she probably doesn't really remember, but the parents do.
Yeah. Yeah.
That. But still, it was kind of neat to, that's my big one claim to fame. Yeah. I'm actually friends with Lady Antebellum's mom.
Right, right. So what do they call that? There's a 7 degrees of separation. Is there that something like that? Yeah.
Yep.
That's fun.
I thought that's kind of cool too. And
yeah, for sure.
On that, but and then
so you stay in touch.
Oh yeah,
still
from
today.
time to time. Yep.
Yeah,
and they do. They still do a lot for for helping other people in Nashville, these fundraisers and things like that. And it's just a very wonderful family, just very well grounded. And and then I see her daughter is the same age as Ashley would have been, and they're having kids, and they're having. It's like. I'm still waiting to become a grandpa, so I'm pushing my youngest to hurry up,
Yeah, did you know I'm a grandpa?
So, no, you are.
Yeah. In fact, the second grandchild is coming due the 24th of June, just over a month.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the best.
I've even told.
So keep pushing.
I've even
It's
told our
the
daughter
best.
Angela, I said, go ahead and just have the kids, and you guys can get married a little later.
Right.
Let's just get this ball rolling.
Right. Yeah.
She's just a workaholic right now. So
Right. Grandkids are the best. They truly are.
And I'll even spoil other grandkids that aren't mine. Some good friends of ours, and spoil them, and you can give them back.
That's right. That's the best part.
Give them some, sugar and candy, and get them, pumped up, and then give them back.
A couple bottles of Mountain Dew.
That's
and
right.
Send them home.
That's right. Works out very good.
Yeah, I love it. Let's wrap up. What would you say, what would be words of advice for people not necessarily suffering through the loss of a child, but just suffering right now?
I think.
Yeah,
I think those that are suffering through the loss of a child is just know that there's people out there to help. Don't feel humbled and saying, well, I don't need help. Everybody needs something.
Yeah.
I didn't think I needed to either, because it took a while for me to even go to these, the support groups.
Yeah.
And, some get long-winded and some don't, and you don't have to go every single time, but it really helped just listening to other people's stories, listening to, what it's done to them, being able to tell my story. But most of it is just know that there's somebody out there that'll listen. Quite often, even our pastor at our church was saying, hey, somebody might give you a call because they just lost a child. Do you mind if I give them your name? And it's like, have them reach out. Yeah. It's just having that listening ear. And that's probably the biggest thing. And to mainly tell them that, they need not walk alone, because, we know exactly what they're going through. We're there to help. We know what they've gone through. We've been there. If it's somebody that had a stillbirth, we have, other friends, close friends of ours that are a little farther down the journey that's gone through the exact same thing, and they can tell you, maybe what to expect, or, just be there to listen. Or if you don't even want to talk about it, just be there as a friend and support. So that's probably the biggest thing.
You mentioned listen to other people's stories. Did you feel like at the time you were going through it, you were the only one?
Yes. Yep. It's like, nobody knows what I'm going through. I'm the only one. And even from time to time, especially the beginning, I was in denial. Yeah. It's like, no, this can't be true. It's, what's going on? And we let people know too that, especially that are really fresh, the first year is, I don't even remember the first year. It's such a blur because you're so numb. The second year is where it really hit hard for me. Then more memories came back, and, it's like, this is real. And a lot of times, of a loved one that passed away, and it could even be a parent, is that, there's a funeral, and I feel so torn right now. People can't have funerals, and they can't say their goodbyes, and it's gut-wrenching right now to be able to not do that. And, there needs to be some kind of closure, but, it was probably a good month, and people dropping off food, or they're doing this, and how can I help? And, it's like, and people don't know how to help either. It's like, they said, I don't know if I want to drop something off. And, what we found out is that people don't know how to respond, but whatever they do, accept it. So there's some people that said, well, I'm not going to reach out right now. That's fine, because they don't know how to deal with your grief, and they're afraid they're going to upset you or something. But then it was like after a month, maybe closer to 2 months, then it was just dead silence. We didn't get the phone calls. We didn't get people dropping by to say, how you doing? That was pretty tough. And that's kind of why it was nice to reach out to others that are going through it now, saying, hey, when everybody else has kind of abandoned you,
yes,
there's others that are here just to keep the memory alive.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing, is to tell people that it's okay to say, your child's name.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's important.
I think that's most important, because I've had it where people saying, oh, I really don't want to bring that up, and it's like, oh no, I love talking about my daughter.
Yeah.
That's what gets me through the day.
Yeah.
And I'll talk about both daughters,
Exactly.
So, but, bring it up,
Yeah.
Because we're afraid that they're going to be forgotten. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. I think you're afraid of that for your kids that are living too.
True.
Yes. I mean, you really get to the nuts and bolts of that. You want your kids to be remembered, not just because they're gone.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
So So that's good advice, and that's actually what I try to do. I've actually been criticized pretty heavily. People, did you hear this happened? And I'm like, I'm not jumping into action because I know that they're going to need some help in 3 or 4 months, right? And that's what I try to do, is that more long term, and then I'll reach out even 6 months later, and some of that kind of stuff too, because that is it's so intense for that, like you say, that month, 2 months, and then it ends,
right?
And that's definitely one of the most difficult things.
Yep. And my daughter was always strong on that, the saying too, the Winnie Pooh, you're stronger than you think, you're braver, and just real positive on that.
Yeah.
And just before she passed away too, went to a store, and it's a store that actually went away but came back.
Okay.
But they've got little trinkets and things like that. And one of the things she has, and it's still in our room, and it's a sign, and it just says, "It only takes one shoe." Signed, Cinderella. So just a little, something profound. So it only takes one shoe. You can make your dreams come true. And she was always that way, just saying, "Hey, it just takes a little something, a little spark."
I've never heard that one before.
Yep.
That's good.
Yep. It only takes one shoe. So
Well, Ron, I want to wrap up. I'm going to get a little cheesy right now.
Oh, please do.
Yeah. So I just want to say, you're shiny. You are strong. You are hope. You are influential, you are necessary, and you are you. Thank you for being shiny.
Oh, thank you.
We'll see you next time, everybody.